When you think of American propaganda, what comes to mind? Is it those old World War II posters? Uncle Sam pointing at you. Maybe Rosie the Riveter flexing her muscle. But the machine of American visual persuasion didn't start with TV or modern advertising. It started much earlier, with oil paint, stone lithographs, and the engraver's sharp tool. For centuries, before the United States was a global superpower, it was just an idea, fragile, explosive concept that had to be sold, both to its own people and to the rest of the world. The early American visual world wasn't a simple mirror reflecting reality. It was a carefully built lens. From the saintly portraits of the founding fathers to the sweeping, golden landscapes of the West, art was the original algorithm. It smoothed over contradictions, erased violence, and built a national mythology so powerful that we still mistake it for history today. It's about how the artist's canvas became a battlefield, and how the Wild West was won not just with the rifle, but with the paintbrush. Not the real man, of course, but the painted god. Think of paintings like the Apotheosis of Washington, where he ascends to the heavens, or the endless copies of Gilbert Stuart's famous portrait. In the shaky years after the Revolution, the New Republic was terrified of chaos and mob rule. They didn't have a king, so artists had to invent a replacement. They gave the people a hero, a modern-day Cincinnatus who gave up power for the good of the Republic. The most famous example is probably Emanuel Lewitz's Washington crossing the Delaware, painted in 1851, decades after the event. It's a masterpiece of psychological manipulation. Historically, the painting is a mesta. Flag is wrong. The boat isn't the right type, and Washington is standing in a pose that would have tipped them all into the icy river. He looks forward, toward victory, while the diverse group of men around him struggle in the cold. The whole composition forms a pyramid with Washington right at the top. This wasn't just a picture of a battle. It was a visual instruction manual for the American people. It said, chaos is all around, but order comes from a single, heroic will. Trust your leader. This style was borrowed heavily from European religious art. Washington was rarely painted as a sweaty, bleeding soldier. He was painted like a Roman statue brought to life. This turned political loyalty into something closer to religious devotion, making dissent feel like blasphemy. As the nation grew more stable, the focus of propaganda shifted from the leader to the land itself. This is where the Hudson River School and the idea of manifest destiny come in. In the mid-19th century, painters like Thomas Cole and Albert Bierstadt started creating enormous canvases. These paintings showed the American wilderness as something sublime, terrifyingly beautiful, huge, and, most importantly, empty. The visual story presented the West not as a territory to be conquered from other people. It told the viewer that the displacement of native peoples wasn't a political choice, but a natural, inevitable event, like the sun rising. They called themselves printmakers to the people. Currier Ives responded with images like the American farm scene. These prints showed a cozy, snowy, rural paradise that, for many, was already a thing of the past. Everyone is happy. The horses are healthy. The snow is pure white, and the farmhouse glows with warmth. Even more cleverly, they tackled the railroad. In reality, steam trains were loud, dangerous, smoke-belching monsters that tore through farmers' fields. But in a Currier Ives print, the train is a sleek little toy, blending harmoniously into the landscape, usually seen from a safe distance. They essentially manufactured nostalgia for the present, convincing a turbulent nation that they were living in a golden age of peace and harmony. Finally, we arrive at the direct ancestor of the Marlboro man, the visual invention of the cowboy. By the late 1800s, the Wild West was pretty much gone. The frontier was closed, fenced in by barbed wire. In the East, a new generation of men worked in offices, and there was a growing anxiety about what it meant to be a man in this new corporate world. This is where artists like Frederick Remington and Charles Russell stepped in. Remington's paintings, like Fight for the Waterhole, show the cowboy as the last brave knight. This visual theme of the last stand was incredibly important. It fed into a national psychological complex of being both a victim and a hero. It completely ignored the fact that settling the West was a massive government project involving the Army, federal land grants, and corporate railroads. And today, when a politician stands in front of a sea of flags, or when a tech billionaire talks about colonizing Mars as the final frontier, they are using a visual language that was written over 150 years ago. When we unpack these old images, we uncover a subtle but powerful truth about American history. The most powerful weapon was never the musket or the revolver. It was the ability to paint a picture so beautiful that people would die and kill to make it real. Thanks for watching. If you found this interesting, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to join us for more deep dives into history and culture.